7, 6, 5, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Freethought in Florida. Freethought in Florida is a production of the Atheist community of Polk County. We're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. I am Sarah Ray. I'm one of the directors of the ACPC. This is Friday, January 29th, 2021, and my co-host tonight is Deborah Smith. Deborah, how are you?
Hi. Oh, Sarah, I'm great, and it's really good to be back. Thank you for having me back.
It is great to have you back, and it's good to see people again. We're still staying at home. And it looks like Deborah's frozen. There you are. Now you're back.
There you go.
All right. So
there you go.
So we want to briefly thank our wonderful patrons over at patreon.com/polkatheists. Patreon is another great way to support the ongoing production of this show. And we want to give a special thank you to Julie and Conrad for upping their Patreon pledge this week. If you can make a monthly pledge of $3 or more, that makes a huge difference. We're going to talk a little bit here in a little bit about some of the programs and things that we're doing at the ACPC. And so that all goes towards the production of this show and the community service projects that we're engaged in. And of course, if you can't right now, that's okay too. We'd sure appreciate you liking and subscribing and sharing all the episodes out on social media with anybody you think would appreciate them. So tonight we're going to talk about some news and current events topics. But first, we had scheduled for tonight a sort of state of the community event but I feel like people are all zoomed out. It was going to be like an annual meeting and get everybody on Zoom and let us present, here's what the community has been up to. Here's what we're looking forward to. And then we can have some social time afterwards. But the interest was low. And I think we're all zoomed out.
I think everybody is. I truly do. I think we've all had enough. We did the whole build up of getting used to doing the Zoom thing. And then we did the Zoom thing. Then meanwhile, people are doing the Zoom thing while they're trying to help one kid juggle homework.
Oh my God, yes.
And help the other child do something else. And meanwhile, you're Zooming with someone and you realize, don't have pants on right now. Okay, that's fine. That's cool. I'll roll with that. As long as we don't get into Jeffrey Toobin territory, we're all going to be good. So that's fine. And I think we've now gotten to the point where we're just tired. We're really tired. And the lack of human contact is getting really grim.
Yeah.
I mentioned to someone, it might have been Keith, but I mentioned today that I haven't hugged or maybe it was you, I have not hugged my children since last February.
Oh.
I mean, that's awful.
Yep. We have part of the human condition. We need that contact.
We do.
And I'm sure there will be studies done of, how this has affected us being, semi-quarantined in some places better than others, of course, but.
Well, and the dilemma is that we know that a vaccine exists.
Yes.
We know that.
Yep.
And so there's this eagerness to, can we get on with it? Can we move forward? And it's like, nope, you got to cool your jets, slow down. The light's at the end of the tunnel, but it's at the end of the tunnel still. So, don't be doing stupid stuff. But somehow it seems even harder now than it did 4 months ago.
Yeah.
Or at least to me it does. I don't know about you, but to me it seems harder now.
It's just so interesting to me, like the way we responded and converted everything online. And I know maybe this is partially me projecting, but it sounds like we somewhat agree. I think about, we talked about this last weekend, was Saturday? Sunday we had an event with the Central Florida Freethought community where we talked about some of this stuff of what we've done and how COVID changed our organization's operations and all of that stuff. But one of the things that we sort of talked about was, going online and changing how we do things that way. But we've all done it, right? American Humanist Association is doing things online now. Foundation Beyond Belief is doing things online now. All these organizations that we're affiliated with, American Atheists is doing like webinars. Like, so they're all, we all just rushed to this online thing. And I mean, if my work situation had been different, where if I been furloughed and sitting at home looking for shit to do all this time, maybe that would have been different, but I didn't. I've largely been working mostly the same schedule. I have, 2 young kids that are dealing with the schooling at home stuff. And so for me, it's like content overload. I don't have time to go to all of these web meetings and Zooms and conferences and stuff. It's
and I
frustrating.
think that for people who theoretically do have time, honestly, it can get to the point where rather than connecting, it can simply point out how alone you are.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know for myself, I live alone. I probably see my daughter maybe once every 10 days, socially distanced, wearing masks for about 20 minutes. I occasionally see my son. My other son lives in South America. Not going there anytime soon.
Nope.
He's not coming here anytime soon. My parents are in Wisconsin. My brother's in
Yeah.
Trying to do the fun, chatty, let's have a cocktail Zoom stuff. I just don't have the heart for it.
Yep.
And maybe that's a selfish thing. And if it is, I apologize. But we only have so much stamina.
Mm-hmm.
We only have so much us to go around. And this seems to require a lot more of us than any of us could have imagined.
Interesting, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
indeed.
so one of the very first things we did when COVID-19 started shutting things down, we shut down all of our operations too, right? All of our in-person things stopped. We had been doing a monthly in-person get-together at the Lake Wales Library, where we would bring in a speaker to present on a topic. And those were we were getting fairly well attended, just for being a young group. And then we had to put the stop on that. And so we discussed do we try to move those online like some other groups have done? And then we found out that the online things just for our group weren't as well attended. So we did some game nights for a while that were fun. But yeah, I think eventually it's just okay, now this is old. Now what do we do? So the good news though is that we're at a place now that we have started to do some of those in-person things again with distancing, with masks, following all of the precautions. But we really had to sort of weigh our safety as volunteers and the safety of the people that we serve with the fact that people need served. And
yes,
and people got to eat, overweight, outpowers all of that. So I want to talk briefly about the programs that we have running now that we've started since COVID-19. And I've talked briefly about some of these throughout, the last few weeks. So, and I'll put this out here up front. We need volunteers. So if you're looking for a way to get involved and give back and help people, these are some great ways to do it that don't take a lot of your time. Again, we're getting together in very small groups. We're following all of the precautions. We're doing all the right things. So the first program that I want to talk about is the It Takes a Village Coalition. This came to be Kathy Dobson, who came to me and said, "Yeah, hey, I'm getting a lot of calls from social workers. People are, out of work from due to COVID. They're having trouble. They can't put gas in their vehicle, or maybe they don't have their vehicle anymore. For all of these different reasons, these people need food and they can't go get it. What do we do? And so that grew into this thing now that we call It Takes a Village. It is a multi-organizational coalition that we do a delivery service instead of asking people to come to us. And so we're at a point right now where we've just shifted from mobile food pantry to full-time food pantry, which is awesome.
That's fabulous.
That also means that we need even more volunteers because under the mobile food pantry model, they would have a truck come to us once a week and bring whatever food they had, they brought to us. And all the various other, if you see on the, the local news station or whatever is reporting, here's where the mobile pantries are. That's how they all work, right? Then to be a permanent food pantry, Feeding Tampa Bay, which is the organization that they have a contract with every grocery store in the area. They have the contract. So any near end of shelf life food that a grocery store will be pulling off its shelves and getting rid of goes through Feeding Tampa Bay to an organization like ours. And so now, instead of them bringing us a truck once a week, we have to go pick it up 3 times a week. So the commitment increased. But
it is.
We're getting so much better food now than we were with the truck delivery because they just throw some stuff in a truck and take it to you. You don't really ever know what you're getting or what quality it's going to be. So now we're getting better food and more of it, which is great. But in order to support all of that, we're really at a point now where our volunteers, we're sort of at a max, and we're at a growth point where we need more. So the way this all works is, as people come through the various points of entry to our program, I get their addresses and plot them on a map, and then we create delivery routes, 5 to 10 houses on a route, all clustered together in an area. So if you live in Auburndale, then you can pick the Auburndale route. You go to the Unitarian Universalist congregation in Lakeland to pick up your stack of parcels for your route, and then you go back to your neighborhood and you're serving the people who live around you. So you go back home and deliver to those folks in your neighborhood that are on your route. And you don't have to do a route near your home. I just think it, gives you a little more ownership and buy-in. The people that you're caring for really are your neighbors.
Yes.
And so we're at a point now where most people who reach out, we have to say, sorry, not right now, because we don't have a route to put you on because we need more volunteers. So again, it is a commitment of, you can do it every other week. Some people do it weekly. To go to Lakeland, for those of you who are local, to go to Lakeland, pick up a route, go to the area and deliver it. And it's a couple of hours on a Thursday morning or a Saturday morning. It's all no contact. So you drive to the house, you set the box on their doorstep. That's it. Then you get back in your vehicle and go. They know, recipients know to expect it and all of that process. So you don't have to talk to anybody. You're not giving anybody your information. You're not handing anything to anyone. Again, this was all designed to be part of a COVID response so that we're not, we're not getting in physical contact with each other.
That sounds wonderful. I want to believe at this point that everyone sort of understands how no contact deliveries work.
But think.
But honestly, I still find that people don't get it. They don't. And I think that's.
We're here in Florida where nobody's taking it seriously anyway.
That doesn't help, Sarah. It really, really doesn't. And then you have people where they're, I've had things delivered where I'm standing behind, the door and I'm like, and I've got a mask on and I've got gloves on and I'm like, just leave it there. I'll take care of it. And they're like, no, I'll carry it in for you. I'm like, no, I don't want you in my house. You're not even wearing a mask. Please. Point. I think in terms of I think in terms of someone that I used to interact with and get really frustrated with, and I would think, what language do I have to put this into? Because clearly the words I'm using aren't working. Is there an alien language? Is there a Martian language? I mean, what language will help you understand that you got to wear a mask? And
Right.
I don't know. I did have a question though about
Sure.
that program.
Yeah.
Besides providing things like food,
Mhm.
does it provide, non-perishable things that people need, like toothpaste, toothbrushes, toilet paper, tampons? Depending on
Yep.
need and age group. I mean, there are things that people need that are paper products that are
Yes.
expensive, and they aren't
Occasionally,
food.
yes. We in the beginning we had some great donations from the Polk County Sheriff's Office. They brought vanfuls of diapers to us, and so
Mhm.
we were able to get some diapers out to people who needed them. As more of those things came up, because then it grew into like, oh, we have people losing their homes and needing a tent to live in for a while until they can find their next thing, right? Well, fortunately, the next thing we're going to talk about, or well, here in a minute, is a program addressing the needs of the homeless population. So we were able to partner where it makes sense, basically, right?
Mhm.
So there are other organizations that provide clothing, for example. And so if we get a request for that, we can easily connect them with other services. The great thing about all of this is that Kathy Dobson, as the sort of point that brought us all together, she has all of these contacts with all of these different organizations and social workers and all of these people that provide all these different services. And so as we've grown, It Takes a Village has really sort of kind of pulled back in and said, what's our mission? And our mission is
Mhm.
food insecurity. And so that's really what we're focusing on. But again, we have those connections to refer people out to other places. So
Good.
that's great.
Good.
itavpolk.org. itavpolk.org is the website to go to if you want to learn more about what we do there and sign up to be a volunteer. Again, it just takes a little bit of your time, and it makes a huge difference for people. I mean, we're talking about like people lost their jobs that maybe they've had a vehicle repoed, or in some cases, they're jumping from housing to housing. We have a lot of migrant workers in the area, and all of that kind of work shut down real early on and did a lot of damage in those communities.
Mhm.
So it's a huge impact for a little bit of your time, which again is all in your car. You pull up, we load up the boxes for you, you take off and deliver them. Pretty easy. We also need people to help pick the food up 3 times a week now and deliver it and take it back to the UU and unpack it into the building and all of that stuff. But drivers especially is the need that there is there. Another program that we launched, Rachel and Keith have been, they're directors of the ACPC. They've been heading up a program that is a backpack program. We haven't come up with a catchy name for it yet, but basically it's a food insecurity program too. So we learned that there is a shocking number of students in our county, in our public schools, whose last meal is Friday at school at lunchtime, and their next meal is Monday morning at school at breakfast time. And so this is a program that we're doing that we pack up weekly. We're supporting 25 students and families. We pack up food every week on a Thursday, and then Friday we take it and drop it off at the school, and the kids can pick it up from the school. So that's just another one of those, really great ways that we responded to the challenges that we're seeing here in the county. That again doesn't take a lot. We get 3 or 4 people together, pack up these 25 packs once a week. Have to wear a mask. We stay distant. We take all the precautions. Right. We're trying to do all of the right things and serve people who need it.
Mhm.
Um,
That's an under, and that's regretfully that is a part of every community that is frequently unserved,
Yeah.
because for a lot of kids, that school lunch and that school breakfast is what they eat. And when you don't go to school to consume that, you're not necessarily getting anything at home. And
Yep.
I remember when my kids were in high school, that was something that was encountered way too often.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I understand.
It's disgusting that we allow our society to be that way. It's disgusting. So anyway, we're trying to do what we can to make it better. And then another newish program that we started up was Street Warriors. Now, Street Warriors is an existing program that is headed up by a Christian couple, and Robert and Steven, and they're just awesome. We love them so much. And they serve folks in the Lakeland sort of downtown area and nearby locations. And what they do is they go out every week with a little wagon full of food and just, pass it out to folks in the park, so that you're serving people where they're at. They've built a kind of a community there that people know them, they expect them, they look for them.
Mhm.
And so we sort of took their template and said, how about we sort of organize as a chapter and do that same work in other areas. And so now we have a program, a group that goes out. Alec Kosminski, another one of our board members, heads this one up. They do Winter Haven, and then there's an encampment area of folks who are living in tents that we take food out to once a week also. So again, that's another one of those, like, this stuff is easy, y'all. This is not hard work, and it's not enough, but it makes a difference. And the big upsell to all of this is all of these programs we have been able to launch and be successful at and really grow this year, thanks in large part to grant funding that has come through in COVID-19 response grants from various places that has enabled us to do this. We are not a wealthy organization. We don't have a lot of memberships and recurring donations. So we want to keep this stuff going in 2021. And that's going to require that we increase the donations and Patreon pledges and other income so that we can keep this work going. So again, if you are so inclined to help us, reach all of those goals, polkatheists.org/donate, or you can become a patron at patreon.com/polkatheists. I mean, in addition to that, we're wanting to get a community building, set up a library, and be able to do all of this community event stuff that we're doing in our homes right now, into a community space, so that we can actually, have the room to do it and spread out and be safe, and have room to store things that need to be stored in the location where we're going to be using it. And something central to the county too. I mean, Polk County is like the 5th largest county in the state. We're, I don't know twice the size of Rhode Island or some nonsense. So there's a lot of ground to cover here. I also want to mention a couple of the other programs that we had been doing. We were doing a roadway cleanup, and that we stopped also because of coronavirus. And we recently started that back up because, again, we figured, okay, it's an outdoor activity. We're separate and apart from each other. We can, distance very well, and there we go. And so we can
Thank you.
So the roadway cleanups, we can distance, from each other. It's outdoors. We don't have to be near each other. And so we've started those back up. We have a 2.2 mile stretch of highway in Auburndale that we've been doing for about a year. No, it's been longer than a year. It's been a year since we stopped doing it, basically. And it was real bad. If y'all follow the Atheist Community of Polk County Facebook page, sometimes I will don the Sister Mary Atheist moniker and go live out on the roadway. And last week I did, and the roads, I mean, it was just, stop throwing your garbage out on the roadways, y'all. What the hell? Stop it. So we've started that back up.
I saw the photograph that Keith posted of a critter-ish thing that was...
It was a half-eaten boar.
It was like, what the hell is that? And how did it get there?
Okay, so listen. Polk County has a sort of reputation, okay, as most Floridians know. So we play a little game that we call Polk County Bingo.
Good.
We find discarded needles almost every time we go out. 1 week we found a glass dildo.
You could oil and sanitize. I'm just saying.
I was gonna keep it, clean it, and then make it into the trophy for the cleanup award of the year or something.
Reuse, recycle.
Exactly. I'm trying to think. There was some other goofy stuff that we found, but it's always a good time. So anyway, stop throwing out your garbage, damn it. And then we're also trying to get. We're in the process of getting a roadway in Haines City adopted too, so that we'll be cleaning up 2 different roadways in the county. The Haines City roadway, however, is not a county road; it's a state road, and so I'm dealing with FDOT trying to get all of the paperwork and red tape, and you got to stamp this, and I got to sign that. Ugh. So we're waiting on that to get done. Hopefully, the guy that was in charge of like all of the adopt roads mysteriously disappeared. I started emailing him, and I was getting it bounced back like, oh, this email address doesn't exist. So finally I was like, okay, guys, what's going on? Oh, yeah, he's not here anymore. Okay, well, can I get a roadway, please? Can we finish this up? That's what it's like working with the state, though, So that's the roadway cleanups, and those are a good time. Honestly, I think those are our social events. Like every once in a while, we were having let's go to B-dubs or something for, dinner and drinks. And those were well attended too. We did some breakfasts for a while because that's what my schedule is. It's easier to get me for breakfast than it is for dinner. But the cleanups, I think it's just as much a social event as it is a service event. So anyway, those are fun. And then there's more. And then Freethought in Florida has been in my brain since the beginning of this group as a way to do some outreach and education and talk about issues that are relevant to Florida, and to also bring people in from all over the state, from different groups, different secular groups across the state, to discuss what they've got going on in their area. And so you've seen some of that over the past few weeks. We've had Devin on to talk about state level things because she's there at the Capitol. And so there's just more and more of that ahead. And I'm really excited that we are on track now for a steady schedule, Friday nights at 6:30 Eastern, for the foreseeable future. There's a chance that my schedule changes twice a year, so there's a chance that that might shuffle at some point. But for now, Friday nights, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, for the show. And again, new hosts. I
currently have no social life, so I'm fine with it.
Awesome. So that's kind of a roundup of where we are with the atheist community of Polk County. We're stable right now with the things that we're doing, but if we want to continue to move ahead next year and do this level of engagement and service work, we need more donations. We need more memberships. So you can find out all of that info at polkatheists.org. We would love to have you and help us make a difference.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Let's get into some current events news topics.
Oh, boy.
Oh, man. And I guess we'll start with the absurd. QAnon conspiracy theorist and somehow representative from the state of Georgia, Marjorie Taylor Greene. She has expressed support for all manner of nonsense, including Pizzagate, false flag shootings as a mean for Congress to legislate gun control, 9/11 inside job conspiracy theories, and the Clinton kill list. And just this week, a video surfaced from before she was elected showing her confronting Parkland shooting survivor David Hogue, making all kinds of baseless claims. And
yeah, I don't know that I would call that confronting. She was harassing him.
Yes,
there's no. She was a grown woman.
Yep.
Following around a young man who bore witness to a mass shooting at his school, and she's asking him questions like, "Well, how come you care about the children?" Well, because he's kind of what's a child, I mean, maybe there's that, but there's this woman just walking and shouting things at him, and then selfieing with her phone about, see, he doesn't want to talk to us because this is she's like, I have a gun in my purse. I'm like,
and he took that as threatening, and he should have,
it's like she was in DC. They don't allow. I don't know what she thinks her privileges are, but she clearly did not check them at the Beltway. That's for damn sure. And I was appalled to see this woman just relentlessly going after this young man. And I tell you, I could not have handled it with as much poise as he did.
Well, he said later in an interview that he had to lean back into things that he'd learned in therapy to deal with PTSD, like mindfulness and breathing, and just go back inside yourself for a moment. And
I can imagine.
I couldn't imagine.
It was terrible, terrible behavior. It was terrible. And of course, she's our little peach that believes that if you don't swear in a Bible, then you are not active. Then you are illegally functioning as
she's a nut.
Senator or representative. And that
I'm going to play that video.
Oh, go ahead. Please do. Please do.
She also promoted a conspiracy in 2018. This is a good one that came out too. That the governor of California conspired with electric company PG&E and renewable energy company Solarin to send solar-powered generators into space to harness the sun into laser beams that started wildfires where they wanted to run a high-speed rail. Right. And somehow George Soros and yeah.
It was a Jewish conspiracy.
Rothschilds and the Soros. Yeah. She's nuts. Who even makes this stuff up? I don't get it.
Well, actually, that we will get, if we go down your list, we will get to that.
Yeah.
We really will. We'll get to that. But play the film. Sarah,
I will.
The film.
So now she's talking about Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib swearing in their oath on a Quran. You can't make this shit up. Let's have a watch.
They signed it. They swore in on the Quran. Oh, we have the Bible. We're going to talk about swearing in on the oath, how to swear in on the Bible with them, and let them know what our law says, that you can't swear in on the Quran. So we're going to explain that. We're going to explain about how you can't swear in on the Quran, and we're going to have the Bible and ask them if they would swear in on the Bible. That we really need them.
We have the oath.
Yeah, we have the oath. Yep. So I think that's important.
Now they can. The sad thing is, now
you're infringing on our religion.
Which you should not.
You're infringing on our religion.
Yes.
By saying that we can't swear in on the Quran.
But when they swore in, it wasn't a law yet, right? At the time they swore in.
I don't know.
I think at the time they swore in, that wasn't passed.
Yeah.
Because it wouldn't have been passed in a Republican control.
Right.
Yeah, so it was passed after they swore in. So they're not really official, I don't think. So let's go ask them to swear in the Bible. Because like you said, Will,
It has to be the Holy Bible?
Yeah, it has to be the Bible.
It
Well,
has
the
to be-
bottom
is
line
there-
is,
is there actual
the
law
bottom
that
line is
says
Yeah.
Sharia law is not compatible with America.
Yep,
That's the bottom
That's
line.
the bottom line.
that's the bottom line.
How can you say you represent women, but you support Sharia law?
Okay. Now, let's talk to my friend, my good friend Andrew Seidel about what's American and what's not, because evangelicalism is probably just as un-American as anything. But my
No,
God,
I am only talking to Mr. Andrew Seidel if he sends me a signed photograph from his modeling days.
I gotta tell you, I saved a screenshot of that to use at some point. We'll see when it pops up next.
Do you think I didn't? Seriously?
We all did. We all
do
did.
you know? Do you want to know who sent it to me?
Who sent
I
it to
didn't
you?
even know about it. My daughter did.
That's great.
My daughter did. She's like, Mom, look. I'm like, seriously? Is that him? She's like, yes.
Oh my gosh, dreamy Andrew. So,
He is.
so Lord, where do you even start? These people are in charge of like legislating things. Holy
and
shit!
she's on the education committee. So we now have someone who's going to make decisions about how educational monies are spent
Mm-hmm.
and in what areas we will spend those monies. And this is a woman who has an at best tenuous grasp of reality.
Right.
And that is frightening. What bothers me more though is that I'm uncertain whether she is really this I'm trying to think of a kinder word than stupid, and I can't. I'm going to go with stupid. She's really stupid enough to believe these things, or is she just playing, alternate facts roulette and it's like you just throw a bunch of garbage at the wall and you see what sticks, and then you use it to get your wedge issue in. And I wouldn't. She doesn't look like that's where she was mentally heading. But who knows? I mean, I don't know. But she simply would have had to look up on, house.gov to find out what are the requirements for being sworn in. It's like you may swear or you may affirm. And if you want to swear, if you want to be sworn in, you can use any holy book of your choice. It doesn't matter whether it's the Torah, the Bible, the Quran, the Bhagavad Gita. We don't care. If you don't want to use anything, you can say, I affirm. And affirming is good enough.
Wasn't there someone recently sworn in on a Dr. Seuss book? I want to say I saw that news story.
Did you? I did not know that.
Here's an idea. Maybe we swear an oath to the Constitution on a copy of the goddamn Constitution. There's a crazy idea.
That would work.
The document that you're purporting to uphold.
Well, I was thinking about this. And I remember growing up as a kid, all right? And I grew up in a Christian neighborhood and went to a Catholic school. And if somebody was promising something, the common response was, you swear in Bible. I mean, not that anyone had one handy, but it was, you swear in Bible. And in our heads, that's the formulaic language we use to say, yes, I really mean this.
Yeah.
But you look at people who are in government and have clearly taken an oath on a holy book and have done all number of certainly ill-conceived and frequently illegal things. It's like, so either their fear of God's wrath is different than what they're espousing publicly, or whatever they swore on was literally not worth the paper it was printed on. And it's like, why do we need that? We don't need that. We can't, regardless of religious proclivities, we are not protecting the country from deities. We are making laws for human beings within the country.
Yep.
We're swearing to uphold the laws of the country for our fellow citizens. I think you could just affirm that. And
yes.
That's good enough.
That's good enough. Yes. Because you're right. Because putting your hand on the Constitution doesn't mean you're going to do it any more than if you don't. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. Just an affirmation. Yeah.
Because either your word means it or it doesn't. And if it doesn't, whatever you got under it doesn't mean a damn thing.
Absolutely.
God, I have such a bleak outlook. I'm sorry about that.
The other part of this, though, is just this raw, disgusting Islamophobia. That's the driver here. Is these are brown people who don't believe what I believe, and brown person from Middle East equals someone who's going to blow up my building. Like in her head, in these people's minds, that they can only see it. It's so much black and white thinking. Like that this is what a Muslim is. This is what Sharia law does. Is that religion troubling, harmful? Yeah, absolutely. You're not going to get an argument out of me at all.
No, you won't get one out.
But just as I argue against Christianity, the believer is not the enemy. The belief is dumb, and we should do something about that. Sure. We should counter those bad beliefs. But underneath all of that is a human being.
It is. I mean, if you want to argue about, we don't like Sharia law. Well, I don't know. Look at the fundamentalists. I mean, they have their own version of it. They really do. We should stone the homosexuals. We should kill the adulterers. But they're not so terribly different. Yep. And what's very peculiar is that there's a lot of that crap that runs riot over Facebook. There's this one woman who writes, and I don't know whether it's a Facebook post or whether she does it as a tweet, because I don't really follow her. I see other people post, but she goes by the moniker, the transformed wife.
Oh God, yes, she's a blogger. She writes blogs. Yeah,
and she's simply like, well, your husband's in charge of everything. His will is what you do, because that's how God made it. I'm like,
there was a story that I was going to pull for tonight about her,
really?
where basically she wrote a blog talking about how you should just beat the tar out of your kids because that's how they learn respect. Spare the rod, spoil the child, they say. When
you need to hit a child, you've already lost.
Have failed. Yes,
you have failed. You have lost the argument, and you need to go have a timeout. Because every parent can be pushed to their limit. They really can.
Sure. I've been frustrated with my kids before. Don't get me wrong.
We are human. And when I had 3 young ones, they were age 6 and under. I had 3 of them. There were times where it's like, mommy's going to go and close the bathroom door and lock it, and sit in here for 10 minutes and collect herself. Yep. So she's not angry with small people
who don't know better, who can't do better.
Who mean no ill intent.
Yeah. Yep.
They mean no harm. They mean no ill intent. And my angry voice helps nothing. So mommy needs a timeout. And I'm a big believer that parents need to take their own damn timeout sometimes.
So another piece of this whole puzzle here, I think, this is a microcosm really of a broader thing that we're dealing with right now, where this superstitious, magical thinking, conspiracy theory stuff is no longer the fringe we thought it was. The fringe is getting larger, right? It's becoming more mainstream, and that is dangerous.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And that was you had sent me. I think you're the one that sent me the article in Pathos talking about how it was by Hemant Mehta, I think, about how the percentage of conspiracy, the percentage of pastors that have reported hearing conspiracy theories from their congregation.
Yes,
and it's a scary number. Once it's over 10%, it's scary. Once it's over 50%, it's really scary. And again, I really believe that what has happened is a determination has been made by a lot of people that we have a mythical idea in our head of how things were in the 70s or the 60s or the 50s or however far back you want to go, that things were better. And they weren't, but there's this belief that it was, and they want to sort of smush anyone who is different down. And they want they want to insist that Christianity is what was intended by our founders, and it wasn't.
Yep.
But they want to insist in it. And if that means they have to do a little, it went from fudging of truth to just outright making up batshit claims,
Yep.
they'll do it.
Yep.
And that is so distressing because I don't know how you begin to deal with those people. I don't know how you begin to explain that didn't happen.
Right.
That's not the truth. You know, it keeps coming to my mind. I think the guy came from North Carolina, but I could be wrong. But there was a man who drove from whatever state to to Ping Pong, pizza.
Oh yeah.
And,
Yeah.
he went storming in with a, AR-15 or AK-47, whatever.
Yep.
I don't know guns. So just call it, gun, big gun, shoots many people, right?
Yes.
That kind of gun.
Yep.
So he goes in there
Looking for the
demanding
basement.
looking for the basement, demanding to free the children. And
Yeah.
it's like, we don't have a basement, hon. There are no basements.
Yep.
And there were no children. And this is nothing. And, that guy's going to be in prison for a really long time. And I don't think he meant evil. I think he genuinely
Right.
believed there were children's lives at stake and no one was doing a thing.
Yes.
And we're going to see, unfortunately, the same thing. Well, I don't think it's quite the same thing with the Capitol rioters. I think there's a very big difference there. But for some of them, they listened for 2 months to people on one side of the aisle telling them, oh, no, the election was a sham. It was a fraud. Biden didn't really win. There was dishonesty. There was stolen ballots. There was forged ballots. There was, name your thing.
Yep.
And 61 court cases later, it's like, they're like, well, we really got nothing here. And those people, though, were fed a steady diet of your democracy is being stolen from you. And now they're going to go to prison. And it's like, why? You've been, do you feel, it's like, do the people who perpetrate this feel no responsibility that they've lied to people for over 60 days? And now those people acted on those lies and are going to go to prison. I mean, how is that?
I don't think they do. I don't think they take that to bed at night. Like
No,
I would.
they must
like
not.
I would obsess over stuff like that. Ugh. Linda in the chat says, I deal with them every day. The illusion runs so deep. Some of these quote unquote prophets are slowly waking up. Yeah. And we're seeing them on the Raw Story and Pathos. So many people at the inauguration day happened, and then a bunch of people, not all of them, but a bunch of people went, what the hell? I thought Q said, and there was a flicker, a momentary wait a minute, was that all bullshit? And I don't know how you get that to more people, but you were right. I was the one that sent you that article, and since we're on it, let me talk about some of the figures here.
Yes, please.
This was from Religion News Service. About half of all Protestant pastors in the U.S. say they're hearing conspiracy theories in their churches, according to a study released Tuesday, January 26th by Lifeway Research. Now, I will say up front, this is the research arm of the Southern Baptist Convention. They surveyed 1,000 U.S. Protestant pastors, and either the only pastor or the senior pastor, if the congregation had multiple, between September 2nd and October 1st, 2020. Margin of error for the survey does not exceed plus or minus 3.4 percentage points at a 95% confidence according to the methodology. Okay. They found that 49% of Protestant U.S. pastors report they frequently hear members of their congregations repeating conspiracy theories they've heard on various issues affecting the country. 49% of pastors say they're hearing this in their churches. Lifeway Research Executive Director Scott McConnell said, Christian churches resolve to be places focused on the truth, Yet half the pastors hear the spread of assumptions about plots often. This is a startling disconnect. The most likely to agree that they frequently heard conspiracy theories from their congregants at 61% were those who pastored churches with an attendance of 250 or more people. So the bigger the church, the more frequently reported. White pastors at 50% were more likely to agree than black pastors at 36%, and male pastors at 50% more likely than female pastors at 35%. And there's probably some statistical what's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know.
I've lost it. Those least likely to agree were pastors age 65 or older at 35%, who are also the most likely to disagree at 59%. Now, here is a sort of caveat to all of this. They say that the survey didn't account for whether the pastors recognized conspiracy theories, right? So it was just, hey, have you heard your people talking about conspiracy theories? And if they don't recognize Pizzagate to be a conspiracy theory, well, that's a no on the checklist if people are talking about it. So it doesn't measure necessarily the presence of conspiracy theories being shared at churches that never get to the pastor either, right? So people will be talking about it, but the pastor's not hearing it. It also doesn't define what a conspiracy theory is or question the pastors themselves if they believe popular conspiracy theories. For example, this is great, RNS. For example, some Christian leaders, such as Pastor Greg Locke, he a great one, of Global Vision Bible Church in Tennessee, and evangelical Christian author and radio host Eric Metaxas have continued. Yes, they're the best, just the best. Have continued to share various theories claiming to prove former President Trump won the 2020 election. Those theories found to be baseless by the courts and by Congress, as you just mentioned, fueled a riot at the Capitol earlier this month. So that's an interesting that pastors are at an alarming number hearing it, and we're assuming. I mean, again, off of those caveats, these are people who are hearing their congregants talk about things, recognizing that thing as a conspiracy theory, and then also reporting that yes. To this research person, yes, I've heard these things. 49% seems like a scary amount.
It seems like a really frightening. It is a frightening amount. Again, there are lots of causes, and I believe part of it is people have some kind of wishful memories about what the past used to be when it was never really that way. But yes. more than that, what we're seeing is the effect of decades of undereducation, because people lack critical thinking skills. They don't have them. So when someone sidles up and says, well, I heard blah blah blah, they don't have the
tools. Yeah.
They don't have the tools to say, okay, well, wait, that doesn't sound quite right to me. So part of it is it doesn't sound quite right to me, and the other part is that you feel that you might feel this is someone that you have something in common with, that or they're your friend, or they're your neighbor, or they're your church congregant, and you're not going to say, well, you're lying, which it is. It is an untruth. You're telling an untruth. And it starts to get easier to just give in and just say, and have a mental framework of, well, I don't know that I believe it, but I don't know that I don't believe it. Right. And that means you can trust nothing and no one ever.
Yep.
And that's a very bad place for a country to be in, when you can trust no one and nothing.
I have someone at work. So for the most part, my circles are pretty rational. But I do have someone that I work with who seems to frequently fall prey to this kind of thinking. And the most recent one was, hey, did you guys hear that there were some people in Australia who got the COVID vaccine and they got AIDS from it?
Oh, heavens.
So what was Sarah to do? Sarah went like this. Fact check. Batshit crazy conspiracy theory my coworker just said. Search. Batshit crazy conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
Like, all you have to do is when you hear a thing, if there's even just a little twinge of, wow, that sounds kind of out there, just put fact check in front of it and search it, please. Dear God, please just fact check things. Like, but he was prepared to believe it, whether it maybe had less of an impact on his life made a difference in that. I don't know. Like the other conversations that we've had, like I don't want to go into a lot of great detail, obviously, because this is a work thing, but just that willingness to, like, yeah, I saw it on a YouTube video or a whatever, so must be true. I can believe it. I could believe that's a thing, so I'm going to believe that's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, things that are actually a thing, we don't want to believe.
Right.
That's the scary thing. Things that are a thing, we don't want to believe. We
didn't land on the moon.
Oh, that one makes me totally batty.
Yep.
It really does. I think that one makes me more distressed than even the flat earthers. I have an easier time dismissing them than the people that are like, well, the moon landing was staged. Like, but why?
Right. What's the motivation?
And it's like, have you ever known 4 people, told them all a secret, and how long did it stay a secret? It's like the conspiracy capacity being into the tens of thousands of people seems so very unlikely. We did go to them. I mean, I didn't go to the moon, but people did go to the moon, and I believe that.
Right. Yes.
I'm real comfortable accepting that as fact.
Yes. So let's jump a little bit here.
Okay.
I want to pull off of the thread of that we've just had an attempted insurrection
We have.
in our country, in the actual U.S. of A., not a country that nobody could point out, no American could point out on a map on the other side of the globe, which it is, right here at home. And from that, we're hearing a lot of talk about, okay, now we need unity. Now we need to get over it and bring ourselves together. Well, there is one lawmaker in particular who is trying to find that unity in a way that isn't so
Unifying?
unifying. This comes to us from the Freedom from Religion Foundation and Black Nonbelievers, who together are trying to get House Majority Whip James Clyburn to reconsider.
I read about that. Yes, I don't know if I've heard Mandisa Thomas talk about it yet, but
Mandisa, come back on. Let's talk about it sometime. But he wants Congress to adopt a national hymn of the United States. And we'll get to that specific hymn in a minute. But can I just break out here to say, for those of you who haven't watched the other podcasts that I did for 5 years and don't know this history about me, I am not a patriotic person. I don't find value in iconography and symbols, and that stuff it doesn't do it for me. And maybe part of that is because of the way they've been used over in the past years. I like to I can't make that joke on the show, but the flag waving rootin' tootin' God bless America stuff just doesn't flow with me at all. I'm not there, right? Am I happy to live in this country? You bet. But I live in this country because I won the gene pool lottery. I could just have easily have been born somewhere else and not be in this country. So it is by no thing that I have done I'm here by happenstance. I want this country to be better. It's good. It's not great. It's definitely not perfect. It could be so many things, and I want to make it better. But I don't have that patriotism bone in my body. I just don't. Never had. Pledge of Allegiance, get rid of it. We don't need that. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and no. We don't need it. But that's just my personal opinion on the whole patriotic, like, flag waving Sousa March America. I don't know what your thoughts are on it. If you want to share, you don't have to. But
no, it's
I just want to put that out there.
It's an interesting question. I think I'm probably fairly patriotic, honestly, and maybe that's one of the things that's one of the reasons why I get very riled up over the current state of politics, is that I feel the concept of patriotism, or and as patriotism, I look at that as, my citizen responsibility. I have citizen responsibilities, and I feel like that's been hijacked by the far right. You look at if you're driving around and someone's got a flag hanging off their truck, you can kind of assume they're on the right side of the aisle. If they've got a flag hanging off their truck along with a Confederate flag, they're definitely on the right side of the aisle. And that makes me distressed. I think part of it is an age difference, really, because when I grew up in the city of Chicago on the South Side, and I used to go from house to house, and back then, if you had someone who, during World War II, if you had someone who was serving, you'd put, one colored star in the window, and if they were dead, another color or missing. And I saw a lot of stars and a lot of windows. I mean, there were a lot of people in that neighborhood who lost a father, a son, a brother. And so I have great respect that people have sacrificed for me, not even knowing me, people, I wasn't even born when these things happened, and people sacrificed. And I am grateful for that. And I want to, as a result, I want to be a good citizen. I truly do. I think that we, good citizens help build, better everything. We care for each other more. We ensure that people aren't hungry or naked or unhoused. That's what part of being a good citizen is to me. Part of being a good citizen to me doesn't have anything to do with feeling that we are, I don't buy into American exceptionalism. There's nothing special about, again, I was born here. I could have been born somewhere else. Had I been born somewhere else, I would have been another person and not known any of these things. And that's the way it works.
Right.
I don't buy into the concept of American exceptionalism. We are not better than other people. We are not smarter than other people. We are not harder working than other people. We are not divinely entitled to things over other people. And but that doesn't mean that doesn't mean that I'm willing to walk away from the fact that there are people in the world that would do all of us harm if given the opportunity.
Sure.
So that's my best explanation.
No, that's good. I think maybe one thing that I just thought of in that is, for myself, I must be part of the globalist cabal, because I think we've drawn these stupid lines on the map that don't mean shit, that we are all the human race, that we are all that's what unites us. It's not that we all live inside these lines that someone drew on a map a few hundred years ago. Even the idea of states is silly. Like, I don't know. I don't think in terms of that. I think in terms of that humanity is what, what, that's my top common denominator, right?
I understand. No. And I understand that. And we are becoming more and more, we're a global economy. We're
sorry.
having
Linda says in the chat, I'm globally minded and can't wait for one world government and the Antichrist to bring temporary world peace. Oh, love you, Linda. Oh.
I am one of the things that I'm not, oddly enough, is I am not a big fan of states' rights.
Yeah,
I'm really not, because what I see is just sad discrepancy.
Yep.
And I and it seems kind of silly. When there wasn't communication from place to place and people to people, I understand that it became, well, this is how we do things in Kansas, and this is how we do things in Nevada, and this is how we do things in New Hampshire. Things are so much more intertwined now.
Yeah.
And I am saddened by the fact that there are many states, many of them southern, where there's little care paid to things such as education.
Yeah.
And I don't, and it stops making sense. It really does. I don't even I certainly am not a big fan of, local boards of education, putting together what they're going to teach and what they're not going to teach, because and the reason I'm not a fan of it is invariably you wind up with a whole lot of schools that are just saying, well, we're not going to teach about that. Or if you're going to teach about evolution, you've got to teach creationism side by side. No, you don't.
Well,
and the more we encourage that crap, the more of it we get.
And I'll make 2 points and then we'll move on, because we're down a rabbit hole. I love it, but we're down a rabbit hole. So one is that keep an eye out. We're going to be talking about this in this legislative session. There are already a bunch of bills filed that would allow parents to just opt their kids out of whatever they want, based on religious belief or a conscientious objection or whatever. And that extends to sex ed and things like science class. But it could also be, they're written very broadly. You don't want your kid to learn about the Holocaust or whatever stupid thing. Anyway, so those are coming. Keep listening for that. But then also the thing that rubs me the wrong way about the idea of local control to an extreme, maybe is the way I would phrase it. You end up with a patchwork of laws that, all over the country, really. Mm-hmm. And so shouldn't I have the same rights if I live in Florida that I do if I live in Delaware or Oregon? Shouldn't we all have the same laws and like the rules should be the same no matter where you're playing the game within the confines of the nation? Mm-hmm. Now, the argument against that is what I'm going to bitch about, which is, well, if you don't like it here, you just pick up and move to, you said you liked Delaware. Off you go. Have fun in Delaware. What a privileged argument bullshit that is. Like, everyone can just pick up and move their lives to a whole nother state. Anyway, we're way down.
Well, that falls into the whole my country, love it or leave it.
Yeah,
it's like, I'm sorry, isn't change it in there someplace? Can't I work to change it?
Yes.
And who made the rules in the first place?
People.
Okay.
People. Train back on the track. So we're talking about James Clyburn, and he wants to make a national hymn, which we don't need. Having one religious song, one national song is more than enough as far as I'm concerned. But so the FFRF says there are significant constitutional problems with declaring a national hymn for a government that is based on separation between church and state. Many of these concerns are rooted in the alienation that inevitably flows from the government declaring one religion or one religious belief to be more worthy of recognition. This is the theme that you're going to see tied through the next couple of news stories, too. Mandisa Thomas, President Black Nonbeliever, said, avoiding that alienation and divisiveness is precisely why the Supreme Court has said time and again that the First Amendment mandates government neutrality between religion and religion and between religion and non-religion. There is also the simple fact that our government does not have the authority to adopt a particularly holy song as its official song any more than it has the power to adopt a particular holy book or translation as its official holy book, they add. Now, of course, many states have tried to adopt their favorite holy book as
they have.
as the state book.
Didn't Tennessee?
Yeah.
I think Tennessee did, actually.
Deborah, you could throw a dart at a map of the southern states, and you'd probably be right.
You have a point there, but I believe Tennessee tried to or did adopt the Bible as their state book.
Yeah, nuts. So anyway, Clyburn has in mind lift every voice and sing, as in mind for the national hymn. Here's the final stanza that FFRF and Black Nonbelievers point out, and tell me if this sounds like a unify. Again, the original point on this was we need something that's unifying, right? God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, thou who has by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in the path, we pray. Lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we meet thee, lest our hearts drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our native land. Our native land. So this is Clyburn's act of healing, which is
no.
No.
No, Mommy says no.
Oh, if only it were that easy.
Mommy says no.
But again, it leaves out the the fastest growing segment of the population, which is non-believers.
Yes.
35% of Americans are non-Christians, and that includes the 1 in 4 Americans who now identify as religiously unaffiliated. So no, this is not representative of the population of the United States. Like there are. We were talking, and I made a joke about John Philip Sousa earlier, who
you did.
Whom I enjoy. I played in marching band. I played in concert band. I played many a Sousa march. Gene, don't worry, I love Sousa too. But there are patriotic. If you want to do the patriotic thing, there are plenty of patriotic things that we can do that are not specifically Christian in nature.
And what gets left behind are I think there are 2 important points. Is that when people look at those words, all right, they're saying, well, it just says God. So that can be, Yahweh, that can be Jehovah, that can be, Allah, that can be whatever God you want. And that always to me smacks of trying to smash a square peg into a round hole, because it's not true. It is religious. And I think if you put that hymn, the words of that hymn in front of 10 different people of 10 different religions who had, interactive experiences with religions, they'd all say, yeah, that's a Christian hymn. And if you want to sing a Christian hymn, if you want to go to your place of worship and sing this on, Memorial Day or Labor Day or 4th of July, Flag Day, have at it. If you want to sing it in your home, have at it.
Yep.
But don't ask me to do it. Don't use it as and this is where we get back to the patriotism problem.
Yes.
Is don't use the fact that I object to that as saying that I am a lesser citizen, that I'm somehow less patriotic than you, because
now
that means nothing.
Then it becomes the Pledge of Allegiance with the 1950s
edition
under God, where now when we say, that's not, I'm not going to pledge that oath, then you're not an American. You're right. Yep. One of the things, the end of this year that I absolutely love that Black Nonbelievers and FFRF stay is, hey, listen, maybe instead of like making a national song, maybe let's do something more meaningful to heal the wounds of slavery and institutional racism, and actually make things better for people. Let's do something that actually improves the condition of minority people in this country, and not just make a song that makes us feel better for a little bit. Oh, yes.
Yeah, I'm not much for token gestures. They kind of, I don't see a point to them, and again, I like my religion. I don't have a religion. I like religion separate from my civic duties.
Yep.
They are not one and the same. They are, my civic duties are my civic duties. If someone has a deity that they believe in, then whatever they envision their duties to that deity are separate than their duties to their citizens.
So would you say, based on that, then would you say that something like, I don't know, presiding over or participating in a city council meeting or maybe a county commission meeting should be also separated from the...
Do you know, Sarah, I would. And I believe...
What a segue.
What a segue. And I believe you have a film to show us on that. I truly do. And in fact, while you show that film, I am going to go and plug in my laptop because I think it's chiming at me for a reason.
Oh, no.
Okay?
Oh,
so
no.
We don't want that to happen.
No,
so
we don't. You go right ahead.
You roll the film and I will grab the electronic parts, the bits, the things that go in the wall, those things.
You got it. All right. I'm going to set it up real quick here. So, friend of the community and director of the Central Florida Freethought community, David Williamson, has been involved in this Brevard County Board of Commissioners situation for several years now. In 2014, David he asked to give an invocation at the Brevard County Commissioners meeting to do a secular invocation. And those of you that have been following along for a while know that, I went to do one of these at a local city commission and encountered all kinds of pushback. And there's so many tie-ins here to what we went through with that. So in response to that request, Brevard commissioners unanimously approved a measure prohibiting atheists from doing invocations at all. But they agreed to allow them during the public comments portion of the meeting. Now that is a direct thread that ties into something that the city commissioners in Lake Wales tried to do. That was one of their options. After I came and gave my invocation, they talked about, well, you can get up during the public comments and say whatever you want. And let me add, they do. There is a pastor who comes to pert near every meeting, and he gets up and rails on and on, after I was there, railed on and on and on about trans people and how terrible that is, and, God just hates us, and all kinds of nonsense that has nothing to do with the city's business, which is what public comment should be restricted to. I digress. The Brevard County Chair, Mary Bolin Lewis, in 2014, wrote, "The prayer is delivered during the ceremonial portion of the county's meeting and typically invokes guidance for the county commission from the highest spiritual authority, a higher authority which a substantial body of Brevard constituents believe to exist." So to them, it's meaningful, one, that it doesn't happen during the quote unquote actual session of the commission meeting, that there's a ceremonial part at the beginning where we, say the invocation and the pledge, and then we call the meeting to order. So that makes it okay. And then also that a substantial body of Brevard constituents believes to exist. Well, obviously there's a problem with that too. Just because a lot of people believe it to be doesn't mean that you get to do that thing to the exclusion of all others, right? The invocation is also meant to lend gravity to the occasion, to reflect values long part of the county's heritage, and to acknowledge the place religion holds in the lives of many private citizens in Brevard County. Many, but not all. So, let me get Deborah back here. There she is.
Thank you.
So they sued. So Williamson and some others sued the county over the ban in 2015, represented by Americans United for Separation of Church and State, the FFRF, and the ACLU. In September 2017, a district court ruled against the county, and in July 2019, a 3-judge panel of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 11th Circuit unanimously upheld the decision. Circuit Judge Stanley Marcus wrote the panel's opinion, arguing that while the county was allowed to have sectarian invocations at public meetings, they cannot exclude certain groups. And this is in line with case law. If you're going to do it, it has to be inclusive, or you don't do it. And that was something that we faced in Lake Wales also. The idea that all of the commissioners are Christians, so they should get to have a Christian prayer, and that who am I coming from out of town wanting to speak at their meeting? There were all kinds of things wrapped up in this situation that here in Polk County. But we made these same arguments back to them, citing the case in Brevard specifically that said you have to allow us if you allow others. If you have Christian prayers, you have to allow others. Sorry. Brevard County has selected invocation speakers in a way that favors certain monotheistic religions and categorically excludes from consideration other religions solely based on their belief systems. Brevard County's process of selecting invocation speakers thus runs afoul of the Establishment Clause, wrote Judge Marcus. And I believe at the time they were like each commissioner was inviting someone to come speak. And so they were, picking someone from their tribe who they wanted. Secular humanists are far from the only group viewed with disfavor. Some of the commissioners and former commissioners have testified unambiguously that they would not allow deists, Wiccans, Rastafarians, or for that matter, polytheists to deliver prayers, and that they would have to think long and hard before inviting a Hindu, a Sikh, or a follower of a Native American religion. Like, wear your racism on your sleeve day at the Brevard County Commission, I guess. Oh, I lost you, Deborah. I can't hear you. Maybe you knocked a wire loose. In February 2020, the county agreed to settle, allowing secular invocations, paying $430,000 in court and legal fees, as well as $60,000 in damages to the plaintiffs. So, here's the thing. We all knew this to be the case to start with, that this was how it works. This is, you can't discriminate against a religious minority, and it sucks that they pushed it all the way to having to foot a bill this incredibly large. But hopefully they've learned their lesson, and they have at least learned their lesson enough to have allowed David to give a secular invocation Tuesday, I believe. So let me roll that. I haven't played it yet. I was giving it the setup. So here is David Williamson and his invocation before the Brevard County Board of Commissioners.
Good morning to one and all, and thank you for the opportunity to be here with you today, and for the honor of solemnizing your reading on behalf of the citizens of the county. And I want to thank you and your staff in particular for their hard work during this challenging period, keeping us all safe. There's so much time available to us in life, and the fact that all of you have dedicated so much of yours is a credit to the service you do, and we really appreciate it. Thomas Jefferson wrote that government is the strongest of which everyone feels themselves a part. As we begin the day in service together, we remember the solemn responsibility we have to our shared community. With that in mind, we remember all those who live in or visit the community and who will be affected by the decisions made here today, possibly for generations to come. Whether visiting the Space Coast for just a day as a visitor to a local beach or boutique, or for an entire career of public service. While we are sometimes participants in it, we are always benefactors of our democracy and the important work of bodies such as this. Knowing that our words, our decisions, and our actions directly impact so many others, we strive to make compassion the foundation for our important work here today, and that we serve with integrity and kindness towards one another and to all those you serve as representatives in local government. Together, let's embody the words of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. when he said, "The good neighbors look beyond the external accidents and discerns those inner qualities that make all of us human and therefore family." May we strive for a balance between listening and reflecting, between speaking and acting. Finally, let us incline our ears toward reason, apply our heart to understanding, and seek knowledge we can use to find common ground among the citizens for the betterment of the county. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Wow, wasn't that terrible? Can't you just believe all that terrible stuff that he said? I mean, come on. So I have I don't know, and I think I share this opinion with a lot of people, which is we shouldn't be doing invocations at all. Oh, good, you're back. Hallelujah, it's a miracle.
It is. That was actually, but Sarah, that was going to be my question is, why do we have invocations at public civic events?
We shouldn't.
If you want to have someone be the official greeter, if you want to have someone from the community come in and say, "Hey, I'm glad to be here, and we hope this is a productive meeting, and thank you all, commissioners, for coming."
Yep.
Okay. That's like, I guess that's polite, maybe. I don't know. But we don't need, if we're going to talk about tax bills, why does that require an invocation? It doesn't.
Yep.
And
there are so many things that I have thought of. Now that I have become someone who gives invocations, I've thought of a lot of these things. Why do we give invocations during the very public council meeting, but not at the workshop meeting? Aren't we doing the same work basically? Or
Yes.
are we only asking God's blessing over the votes that we're taking?
Probably.
What? How does that make any damn sense at all? And again, if there's 5 on the commission and 4 of you, or all 5, I don't care. You want to pray in private before the meeting, break a neck.
Go for it. Go for it.
Go for it.
Absolutely go for it. Nope, I have no issues with that.
And then you come out on the dais and do your job.
Yep.
I hired you to do a job. Do the job. I don't go to my employment and clock in and go, "Okay, wait, everybody, we have to say the special words first." We don't do that anywhere else.
No, we don't.
But we allow it in our government,
we also believe that sadly, I think we also believe that the louder that we pray, the more public that prayer is, it's sort of a form of assuring everyone of our piety. Yeah. And that really irritates me because I feel like, isn't there something in there about if you want to talk to your Father in heaven, do it in your closet because he knows all, sees all. So, hey, go do it there. You don't do it at my city council meeting.
Yeah, that's Matthew 6:6.
Thank you. I'm Catholic. We didn't read the Bible.
Yes. Yeah, you should not be out on the street corners to be seen by others. You should be in a closet. Yes, absolutely. Welcome to Cherry Picking the Bible with Sarah and Deborah. Because then there are other ones that are like, sing unto the Lord, shout unto the Lord, all that stuff. Anyway, so I just, first of all, I think it's goofy that we do it at all, and it's just a holdover from ye olde times that we haven't exorcised yet.
Nice word choice.
Thank you.
Look at that.
And I hope that someday we can. I think it's going to take more non-religious people in office one of the things that we encountered in Lake Wales was like, I know of some city employees who are non-religious, who have to sit through that, and we brought this to their attention, who have to sit through these meetings and listen to this prayer that does not represent them and maybe even offensive to other religious beliefs. And they didn't care. And they passed their little thing anyway that basically made it so that I would never come back. But like, again, I can't imagine why you wouldn't want to be more inclusive to more people, and especially if you got to run for re-election at some point. And I don't know, but I do. I think it's silly, and I think it needs to go away. But in the meantime, we have to do them. And I was sort of against, not against, but I didn't see the value. I didn't see the urgency or the need in doing secular invocations until I did one, probably. And because I just, again, it's stupid. Why are we doing them? We shouldn't do them. I've had people push back at me saying, why does our organization want to be involved in doing stuff like that? And when I finally came to understand and be able to express the answer, right, it's if we don't, being seen. Yeah, if we don't do it, then every single meeting opens with a Christian prayer and the status quo remains. Mm-hmm. So we have to do it, if for no other reason than to just remind them, hey, there are people in your constituency who do not believe the same way that you do. So now I'm all for it.
Well,
until we get to a point where we don't anymore, right?
Yes, I'd be fine with no invocations.
Yep.
That would work really well for me. And
I'd
again,
be okay with a moment of silence, even if we want to take a moment to just reflect on our community and the things that we're about, the issues that we're about to address tonight. Let's take a couple moments and that's mindfulness meditation stuff. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, it would be better than what we have.
Right.
I would definitely go with that. I worry about the moment of silence because I think about wanting to shovel that in public schools. And I'm like, we don't really need that. We're here to work.
Yep.
We're here to do
learn.
math and science and literature and history. That's what we're here to do, people.
Mm-hmm.
So let's do that.
And hey, let's do mindfulness and meditation in PE class. Let's make that part of a curriculum where we are teaching kids to learn how to block the noise that comes at them constantly for just a few minutes and settle their brain down and clear and calm. I think that's a great thing to teach kids.
I concur.
Anyway.
So does my therapist. So does my therapist.
When you want to stop a thing, whenever there's a religious overreach, stepping across that church-state line, and you want to put a stop to it, who you gonna call? The Satanic Temple. Every time. Satanic Temple. Now,
every time.
I have friends who are on the LaVeyan Satanist side of things, and I've learned that the two do not get along well together.
Do not. No.
However, I do feel that there is a value in the shock and awe stuff that they do. Maybe not putting your nuts on somebody's mom's headstone or whatever, but some of the things that they do are worth, I think, are worth doing for, dragging the Baphomet statue out into Arkansas to protest a Ten Commandments monument. Do that every time. Do that every time.
Yep. Do that.
Well, it turns out the Satanic Temple is now suing the city of Boston for excluding them from offering invocations during city council meetings. And apparently Boston is not watching Florida news. But this one comes from our friend Hemant Mehta over at the Friendly Atheist. As it stands, the city's unwritten rules allow council members on a rotating basis to select community members to give opening remarks, but that leads to favoritism, according to the Satanists, and effectively discriminates against people who hold unpopular religious beliefs. Absolutely. Again, we go back to what we were talking about with Brevard. In Lake Wales, it was they have a chaplain Well, they thought they had a chaplain. They do now. They have a chaplain, and when the chaplain's not there, then the mayor does an invocation, or one of the commissioners gives an invocation. And if none of that, then we do this, and it's like fizz-bin. That's a 1%er. But the idea that that then when a Satanist comes to the door and said, "Hey, you might let him go a humanist." Okay, humanist. Well, I don't know what that is. Most people don't. So we'll hear a humanist invocation. What harm could that bring? It's not like you're carrying the scarlet letter, wearing the atheist scarlet letter on your chest. But when the Satanists come to the door, oh by golly,
people get very freaked out by them.
They do.
Really do. They get their knickers in a twist every time.
And if you just understood where they're coming from on a lot of things, I line up with a lot of it.
If you read their tenets, their tenets
so good.
are
So good.
good. You know,
Yeah.
they're most people can get more on board than that with a lot of things.
Yep.
Honestly,
Yep.
you know, I will disclose that I'm a not so secret fan of Lucian. So just so it's out there.
I need to get him back on the show again. That was fun the last time I talked to him.
He's a nice guy.
He's a nice guy.
He's the nicest man.
So the lawsuit says that members of the Boston chapter made 2 formal requests for invocations in 2016 and 2017, and not able to speak because the council members were selecting who they wanted to speak, right? Just out of their own pocket of who they like best. And so they were rejected on that. But most recently, because in their words, they lack the political clout to procure a counselor's invitation. There have been no other groups request to give an invocation and be denied, except the Satanic Temple. To have ever been excluded.
Yeah.
So there's some back and forth. The city says, yes, we did say you could, and the Satanists say, no, you didn't. They even brought in a speaker from a church in another city. A lot of times they'll play that game like, oh, you have to live in this zip code or whatever. You have to live in the city limits. But that couldn't be because they invited somebody from outside the city.
Because it was some council person's friend.
Yeah.
It's like their buddy.
Yep.
Or whatever, their who knows, family priest, I don't know. But yes, they were not local.
Yes. So again, there's that personal connection of like you buying your way in with some sort of leverage. They also said that between 2011 and 2017, there were 233 invocations, disproportionately awarded to Christians, Muslims, and Jews. And I'm shocked that there were Muslims among them, to be honest. But none of them were given by, anything outside of the Abrahamic trio. There were no pagans, no Native Americans, right? Similar story that we find everywhere.
Right. No Sikhs, no Hindus, no Zoroastrians, none of them.
Yep. So they're going to court to try to push this same issue, and I feel like we're at a point now where there's enough historical casework here. There's enough precedent that. And we thought this would be true of our fight in Lake Wales too, but enough of a precedent to go in and say, "Hey, lawyer for the city of whoever, take a look at this one because this is what y'all are trying to do, and it was struck down in this court." And then they would come back and go, Okay, so we're not going to do that anymore. What we're going to do instead is we're going to do this. And then, but there's a case on that too. You guys, you can't do that either because in this jurisdiction, this happened and the court found this. And so in our case, they just kept like whittling away at this works, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, this doesn't work until they got they struck this one thing that hadn't really been challenged or had been challenged in the city of Lakeland and the court upheld it. And so that's kind of where we let it sit. But again, this can't possibly be that fucking important that we're wasting all of this time and money and we're tying up the court system for what? For what?
Well, we're tying it up, honestly, because especially if you get into areas like the upper Midwest or the Northeast, or I'm going to assume the West Coast, although I don't know as much about that. They are fairly comfortable with this. Well, these are Abrahamic faiths, so we can kind of link one after the other, and we can call it good. You know,
we believe in the same God. We just believe different things about them.
Right. We believe different things, but ultimately, same guy in charge, right? And if to use an odd phrase, I mean, those are fairly for us, for people who've grown up in this country, those are fairly vanilla religions, and the TST is not. For most people,
for sure,
they think that it means, slaughtering animals in the streets and copulating in the aisles. And it is a little bit of an uphill battle, because you have to at least have someone with a clear thinking process has to listen and say, and read and say, this is what the TST is about.
Right.
Okay. What part of this is objectionable? Because chances are they're not going to come up with anything objectionable.
Right.
I mean, there really isn't anything objectionable. And I am sure there was a whole lot of conversation before that was the name that they decided to go by.
Sure.
Because you could have picked, you could have had you could have still had Baphomet, you still could have had tenets, and you could have had a name that was less frightening in your face, the kind of name where you say it to your parents and they get that scared look in their eyes, I don't like that battle has to be fought, but I don't know a way around it. An organization can call it, a religion can call itself, in there, a religion. Yeah, so you can call yourself whatever you want.
Yep.
And, the fact that makes, some people feel all Twitter pated is not my problem. It's not your problem.
Right. Absolutely.
I like that word, Twitter pated. I mean,
That's
that just seems like,
yeah. So good luck, Satanic Temple. I'm sure. Well, and again, like one of the things that came out of that Brevard story, I think a lot of these people are motivated by the fact that, regardless of, I mean, I can read the tenets and say, oh, that's not too bad. That's harmful, or that's harmless, whatever. But my seat is open for re-election in a year, and I need all my Christian constituents to vote for me. And if it gets out that I said okay to the Satanist, I'm done. So there's a lot of that political bullshit tied into it too.
Yeah, there definitely is. Well, and that's what we've seen overarching in the country is I want to run again, and there's a portion of the Republican Party that's kind of bad shit. I need their votes. So I'm not going to say boo about the bachelorette.
Right. Anyway, I think there's the end of that story is I've learned that there's value in doing these secular invocations until we can change the minds of the people who just have to have their sacred invocation in front of everything. And in the meantime, we use it as an educational tool to, enhance, to promote humanism and, a lot of the things that our organization was sort of designed around. Like, we want to change the perception that people have about atheists. I think somebody in the chat, like, what's your call-in line? I want to argue about, I can prove to you that God is real. I don't care, man. That's not my bag. And we're talking about potentially taking some calls in the near future. We have that. I'm pretty close to having that set up. That's not calls we're going to take. I want to talk about it. It doesn't matter to me because what matters to me is what we're doing out in the world, what we're doing right now that has an impact on real people who I can see and touch and talk to and know that, hey, this family didn't go hungry tonight because we did something about it. Mm-hmm. And that's it. Like that's what we're about. And that's the kind of stuff I want people to learn about us as secular people, as non-religious people, that we have a lot of the same motivators and things that we care about as everybody else. Mm-hmm. Right? That's the humanism that really ties us together. And some people put a Christian bow on it and some don't. So yeah, if we can use the invocation process to help teach that to people too, great. Well, we'll do that for a while then until we can make them go away. Anyway, we are long on time. So
we are.
Let's go ahead and wrap up.
Okay.
There was one other story I was hoping to get to about the $15 an hour minimum wage thing, but we can shelve that for another time.
We can because
a big rabbit hole.
Because it is, and they have not defined some of their terms.
Yeah.
Some of those terms are going to need to be defined.
Yep.
And so we can wait for that to start going through committee for them to flush that out. So that's cool.
Yes. So you were on another podcast this week. Have you already done that? Was that just the other day?
I did. That was Wednesday. Yes, and I was on Sacrilege, and and Zach is a friend of mine, and he's a nice guy, and I was on there with my friend Jeannie.
Yes. And I'm sorry, Jeannie. I screwed up and said your name wrong earlier. I saw your comment. I would have
corrected you after the show. I would have done that, but we had a nice time just being together. Good. We really sometimes we get together and we have a fairly they call it Deborah's assigned homework, which I'm pretty famous for actually. We just kind of wanted to be together, and and we are all processing what's happened in the last several weeks, and I think we all just needed to say, oh my God, it has been a couple of weeks, people,
Yeah.
So but it was delightful to be on, and he's a good host. He tries to pull all over the atheist and sometimes not atheist. He's had on some people who are theistic, but are humanists, and he's a very engaging young man.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad you had a good time. I will go. I'll make sure that I check that out. That was what does he call that? The Sacrilege cast?
Yes, that is correct.
That's what I thought. Cool. Do you have anything else going on that you want to talk about?
I do not.
All right. I'll go.
I should, but I don't.
That's quite all right.
Sarah.
I have so much shit going on.
Tell us. Share with us, Sarah.
Monday, February 1st is coming up Monday. My wife Becca and I are going to be on the Recovering from Religion RFRX series, talking about being transgender and having been religious and then leaving religion, and how our relationship works through that, because she has some Jehovah's Witness family that we interact with from time to time, and all of that stuff. So that's RFRX, and that's a Zoom event. So if you want to watch it, be there live, you have to register to join, and they just shared all of that out on social media today.
Okay. Or
you can go to recoveringfromreligion.org and click on the RFRX link, and they have all of that there. So I'm looking forward to that. That'll be fun. And then next week, the following week, on the 11th, I'm participating in Faith Leaders Forum, which is put on by the Polk Highlands and Hardy Teen Pregnancy Prevention Alliance. TIPA for short. And this is an event that I did last year. And I feel like, I'm the secular person in the room at this event, right? It is religious leaders and Sarah. and And I was brought in, again, this is, my friend Kathy Dobson, who drags me in, and I say yes to anything she asks me to do, but who drags me into these things. We want to be able to present a perspective that I think my goal here is, if we can meet, and you've probably heard me say this before, if we can meet in the middle on the issue of teaching comprehensive sex ed in schools, that's my goal. I want to be able to go into the school board meeting arm in arm after COVID with religious leaders and say, look, here is the Southern Baptist, here is the whatever, right? Here are the coalition of religious leaders and Sarah and her atheist friends, and we're all in agreement on this thing. We disagree on a lot of stuff, but we should be teaching our kids how their bodies work.
Yes.
And then, and this is my gimme, and then if you as a leader of a faith institution, if that means you'll go to there with me and then you want to teach them that spiritually this is what it means, I'll take it. If that's the middle ground, great, because we're teaching kids the information that they need to know when they need to know it. One of the questions, so funny, I'm actually going to be talking about comprehensive sex ed in school, but one of the other questions that we got last year that is recurring this year is, what would you say to a parent in your group, your congregation, your organization, that came to you to say that they found out that their teen was having sex? And I said, let me answer the other question, because my answer to that question is, yep, teens have sex. And if you waited until this moment to think about it, it's too late. Mm-hmm. It's too late.
I'm right beside you.
So that's my goal. Daryl Ray put me up to, anytime I go into these meetings, I have to say, everybody raise your hand if you masturbate. That's Daryl Ray's. He said, Sarah, if you do nothing else, I need you to go in there and normalize masturbation for these people. And I said, you got it, Daryl. Oh, you should have been there last year. It was beautiful. Not a hand in the room. Well, a handful of hands, but not very many. And yeah, but like, again, if I can bring you to the middle point where you'll let us teach your kids comprehensive sex ed, and again, watch all these bills that are coming out, because a lot of them have that little caveat of your parent can say, nope, my kid's not going to that class. This is a public health thing for me. In the same way, like, let's get everybody vaccinated that can be vaccinated, and the only exemption should be medical. Sex ed should be a mandated, required thing that we teach kids, because it is a public health thing.
Well, what's bizarre is the idea that if children, and I'm using the term children because under the 18, I'm using the term child.
Yes.
The idea is, if they have knowledge of how their bodies work, they're immediately going to go out and do things. And it's like, no, they're already doing, number one, they're probably already doing things. Yeah. I was a teenager. I was doing things.
Sure.
So I'm sure other teenagers, I assumed my teenagers would be doing things.
I got a girl pregnant when I was 17. As a great example of, like, my health teacher was my uncle. And we got a lot of, okay, kids, now we're going to show you some slides of some venereal diseases to kind of gross you out. Okay, don't do it, kids. You know what we did? We did it a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I'm beating a dead horse here, and I know I'm preaching to the choir, but if you teach kids inclusive, LGBTQ inclusive, comprehensive sex education, all of the metrics that we claim to care about go down. Teen pregnancy rates plummet.
Yep.
STD, STI transmission rates drop. All of those quote-unquote negative outcomes that you seek to prevent are prevented by teaching kids how this stuff works, not by never has let me withhold information from you been the right answer to a thing. Never. Anyway, so that I'm going to be talking about. You got the long form version. Hopefully I won't rant that much, but that's on the 11th.
Oh, it was a good rant. It was a very fine wine.
All right. Well, let's wrap up the show then, Deborah, and thank you so much for coming on and doing this fun show. I enjoyed having you on.
Well, it's been a delight to be here, and I thank you very much, Sarah.
Hey, let's do it again soon, huh?
Good. I would enjoy that
Yeah,
very, very much.
You got to vamp until the music actually plays. No.
Okay, I will do that.
Oh, sometimes that happens to me. It's really annoying. But there we go. There's the closeout music. All right.
Alrighty.
So that's going to do it for this week. Thanks you to everybody who listened and tuned in. And for those of you who are patrons, we love you. Thank you so much. Freethought in Florida is available on YouTube, Facebook, and popular podcast players. You can find all of those links at polkatheists.org/FIF. And please subscribe, like, share out the episodes to folks you think might like it. You can find all about the atheist community of Polk County and make a donation at polkatheists.org and follow us at Polk Atheists on all the social media. And remember the 3 most important things. Don't touch anything, wash your hands, and wear your mask. Be safe, everybody. We'll see you on the next Freethought in Florida.